Welcome to episode 101 of the Whatnots Review Show, where every week we pick a story and we talk about it. This could be a movie, TV series, anime, manga, comic book, audio drama, all kinds of entertainment. We watch it, read it, listen to it, and then we come back here and we talk about it. My name is Melissa Wilkinson, and I am joined as always by Kyle Springer.
Hello.
Hello, Kyle.
How are you?
I'm doing
how's the weekend been so far?
I had some semblance of a family meal yesterday.
Okay. How'd that
where
go?
I ordered takeout from the restaurant where my nephew works, and he was back in the kitchen where he is entirely quarantined for all of his shift, so he doesn't interact with anything else. So I didn't get to see him, but it was his penmanship writing my name on the takeout box. And then I picked up our orders and I gave my mom her takeout box through the car window. And this was how our family was together.
It's like dinner at Sonic. You guys are all like parked right next to each other. You know.
I'm not far from a Sonic. We should have a family Sonic dinner.
That sounds good. That sounds fun. I have not had anything as exciting. We recorded crossplay yesterday, me and Ignacio. That was fun, but I spent most of yesterday sleeping. I was just really tired.
Good. Yeah.
I was just like, I'm gonna sleep in, and then I woke up and I ate, and then I was like, I'm gonna take a nap, and I did.
That's high living.
It was good. Oh yeah, high living indeed. High living indeed. What are we talking about?
We are here to finish up our Venture Brothers series. We've been checking in with the series one episode a month until we've finished all of it. And now we are here today to discuss one episode of the podcast per month. Yes, it's us. The one episode is us. If we covered the series one episode per month, we would be here for years.
For a long time.
Yeah. But today we are talking about seasons 5, 6, and 7. They were all kind of short seasons. And this now catches us up with the series. This will be our last episode until they do season 8, whenever that might happen.
Yeah. This is part 3 of our Venture Brothers coverage. And I'm sure whenever season 8 comes out, I'm sure we'll do something covering that now. But Melissa, I want to just start things off by saying I was pretty much right about one of my predictions.
Yeah. I am very excited to talk about this because
it's very close. So we'll get into that in spoilers, but I was excited. I was like, I knew it. I was right.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun episode because you were seeing all of this for the first time. And I had seen all the way up through season 6, and then I'd wanted to rewatch the series before I started season 7. So season 7 is brand new to me.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun.
It was.
I think out of everything we've watched, seasons 6 and 7 were my favorite. 7 not as much, but season 6 in particular, I thought was stellar. I thought this was so good because I remember in our second episode covering seasons 3 and 4, I was like, well, like I want them to branch out and start doing their own thing. It's about time, but some of the things I'm seeing them do, I just don't really like. I'm not as into and stuff like that. And season 5, 6, and 7 continued that, and it got more into a direction that I was like, yes, this is exactly what I want. This is so good, and it is stellar. So I am so happy, and this show is fantastic. So
yes, they really shake things up for season 6 and 7 in really exciting ways, and I think it was good to watch all of this show in like such quick succession over the last couple months because looking at season 7, there's a lot of very specific callbacks to really things from episode 2. Episode 2 of the entire series is a major factor in the season 7 opener. Nobody remembers that episode.
Yep, exactly. So again, I guess we don't have to go super in detail, but maybe if we want to give a quick plot synopsis, if someone is just checking us out for our thoughts on season 7 or something, and has not watched the rest of our coverage, should we just do a quick synopsis as normal?
Yeah, The Venture Brothers is an Adult Swim cartoon that has been running since 2004, 2005. It's Adult Swim's longest running continuous show. And it started off as a Johnny Quest spoof about a super scientist dad and his 2 sons and their bodyguard that would go on these globe-trotting, fantastic, cartoonish adventures, and they were being pursued by a super villain who had a really specific grudge on the dad, and nobody knew why.
Yeah.
So it starts there, and then it starts just becoming more of its own thing. It's still got that Johnny Quest takeoff aspect to it, but it
spoofs of like Scooby-Doo and Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, lots of other
all
stuff.
Sorts of stuff. James Bond and things like that.
So it's got a lot of pop culture pastiche, but the show also develops its own deep mythology. It's still really character-based. Like you're watching to see where all these character arcs are going to go. And when we in these seasons we're watching, the boys find out that they are clones.
Yep.
That they have died over and over again, and their dad keeps cloning them and replacing their memories so that he is like always a set of boys. He's never without boys.
And this is something we have known since I think like season 1. Or I guess season 2. But it's something we've known, but this is when they are just finding that stuff out.
So there's a big character change there, and the show switches settings, which shakes up the cast a lot and introduces new villains, new allies, and whole new conflicts for the family.
Yeah, I liked the change of scenery a little bit. I guess for me it wasn't so much about the change of scenery, but it did bring the show in a new direction. It was like, what if we take the show more to the 80s style stuff? What if we have more like spies and like James Bond and gangsters and Green Hornet and stuff like that.
It gets real Green Hornet in season
It really does,
6.
yeah. But I liked the change of direction quite a bit. I think it worked out well. So, okay. I guess I don't really have anything else to add to that without really getting super spoilery.
It's tricky to get any more specific than that because, I don't want to spoil the reason why there is a setting change.
Yeah. Well, let's do our housekeeping, and then we will dive right into spoilers. Ladies and gentlemen, if you did not know, we have multiple podcasts here on the Whatnots. You guys can find out more information about all of them on our website, thewhatnots.com, or on your favorite podcasting platform of choice. Just type in the Whatnots and all of our shows will pop up right there. We do have a Patreon. If you like what we do, you can support us over there. Patreon.com/thewhatnots. You guys can get episodes early. You guys can get access to the live streams of this show. You guys can get all sorts of exclusive content at the $3 tier. And we also want to give a big shout out to our Patreon supporters at the $5 tier. So thank you, Sam, for helping us out and keeping the mics on. We appreciate it tons.
Thank you.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay. House has been kept, except we probably should mention, since this is episode 101, that we just had our big episode 100 celebration last week, in which you and I compared and contrasted our favorite superhero movies, or what we thought was the best superhero movies. We watched Spider-Man 2, directed by Sam Raimi, starring Tobey Maguire, and Captain America: The Winter Soldier, directed by the Russo brothers. So it was good. It was a lot of fun.
That was a good debate.
That one. Exactly. Yeah. So go check that out. That was a really fun one, and shout out to us for making it to 100
to us.
episodes. To us. Aha! So there we go. House has been kept.
Yep.
I should also. I mean, I guess I don't need to, but I broke my chair, and so I feel like I'm leaning forward a bunch and slouching. And I have since purchased a new one.
Oh,
but
good.
It's not here yet. It's a big, fancy one. When I get it, I'll be a real gamer. It'll be great.
You sprung for the gamer chair?
I did, yeah. I spent way too much money. I was like, I'm going to be working from home for the foreseeable future. I'm going to be in this chair a lot and podcasting and doing all that stuff. I might as well just get one that's a nice one. So,
it's worth it.
There we go. But, okay, spoilers. Let's see if...
Yes.
It worked. Okay.
Okay.
I think. We are in spoiler territory now.
So let's talk about Dr. Venture and the Monarch.
Yes.
Because I have been real cagey whenever you have brought up the fact that it's like, it looks like they are related. Because I'd seen up through season 6 and it was still like getting closer to that. But I'm like, are they going to pull away from this? Like, it's so clear. I almost wondered if the creators were like, no, it's too obvious. We're going to turn this into something else.
Yeah, or if like that was the joke of like they just happen to look
they
exactly
are brothers
like each
and
other.
they're not. Yeah. And everybody sees it. Like going back through the series, like when the Monarch crashes the prom, and Hatred's like, well, if you're gonna crash the prom, you have to put you in a suit. And he looks at him and he's like, you're about a size, Doc. Or in the Blue Morpho series, when Billy sees the Blue Morpho and he's like, oh, that's Rusty Venture. And it's like, well, that's his hero. Like, we got to trust Billy. If Billy thinks that's Rusty, he's got to be correct.
Yeah. So my prediction was that Dr. Venture and the Monarch were like long lost brothers, and they didn't know. Maybe one of them was stolen as a baby, and their dad just never really got around to explaining it because they were all so young, or who knows what, or like they got their minds
like Jonas
wiped.
Yeah,
just some way somehow. It's like they have the same beard, they have the same like facial structure, like they look exactly the same.
Yeah,
and I was almost right. I was like 90% right. I feel like same dad, different moms is what we can kind of gather.
But we still have no idea who Rusty's mom is. We see the Monarch's mom. We don't know much about her, but we see her. She speaks. She is a person. Rusty's mom's still like a complete blank piece of this puzzle.
That is true. But yeah, there's this like weird sequence of events when Jonas Venture is with the original Blue Morpho, and they're like about to have sex with these two women just because, and then afterwards the Blue Morpho is complaining that him and his wife are trying to have a kid and it's not working and all that stuff, and then he just has this little line that it really implies it's like, well, what if I have sex with your wife instead? Like I can have kids. So and I was just like, I knew it. That bastard.
And what he says is like, well, bring her by my laboratory. They're doing amazing things with fertility these days. And he's like, I bet I could solve this problem.
It's like,
where it's
my
sort
science
of vague,
is
like,
fertile.
yeah. It's like, does the man Monarch always believe to be his dad? Does he know at the outset of this? He might be taking that at face value, like, oh, my friend Jonas, the super scientist, he's going to fix whatever thing may be medically wrong with my wife. Like, he's such a dick. Like, he's just betraying his friend, kind of, but also like, here, you wanted a kid? I gave you a kid, didn't I?
Yeah. It's a weird thing because that is what we're led to believe. It seems the most correct. It seems like that is what happened, but I think the creators have also still given themselves some leeway if they want to change things or pull a fast one and be like, psych, this actually has nothing to do with them. There was this other time that, which, who knows, that might be something we find out in season 8 whenever that comes out.
Right. Another big piece of information they drop in season 7 is that Dr. Venture himself is a clone.
Yeah. That he is not the original one.
Right. And we don't know more specifically than that. Like, you can infer from it that it's the exact same, like Jonas did the same thing to him that he was doing to Hank and Dean, just like replacing him every time he died.
Yeah.
But we don't know for sure. Like, we can only assume he is a clone of the original version of himself. But if he's like a clone of his dad, if he's a clone of the Monarch or somebody, that would explain why there's that big blank space where his mom would be.
Yeah. That would indeed. That would be kind of wild if the Monarch basically finds out he's arching himself.
Or like he's the only
I've been my own worst enemy. That would be good. That'd be good.
Yeah, I love this series of, well, there's one Venture son. Okay, now he has this weird twin that came out of his body. There's 2 Venture sons. There's this third other mysterious Venture son. And then you look at the next generation, it's like, well, there's Hank and Dean and Dermot and dozens of clones of Hank and Dean.
Yeah. It's good stuff. I like this when they get into stuff like that, because I think that is one of the central mysteries of the show.
Yeah.
That is often not spoken about, but there is like you said, there are hints. Like, you look like about a size Doc, Yeah. And it's just like, okay, I see what you're doing there. You're laying the seeds.
It's the greatest joke of the series and its greatest like emotional fulcrum.
Yeah. And so I like that, because I like all the world building stuff and just where is the actual story going.
Yeah.
And I think that is why I really liked season 6 and 7. I liked season 5 as well, but season 6 in particular, I was like, spot on. This is so great.
Yes. Season 6 has a party for Tarzan, which is one of the very best episodes of the entire series.
Yeah. So, let's talk about season 5 real quick, because I'll be honest. I think because I liked season 6 so much, I almost forgot what happened in season 5.
Season 5 for me has some real high points. What Color Is Your Clean Suit is a great episode. I love Spanakopita. Spanakopita is one of the best ones. I like how that season wraps up where you think Doc is dead, but the Monarch and Dr. Mrs. the Monarch have kidnapped him, and they're going to torture him, and none of the tortures take. And the Monarch's just so bummed out, he lets him go.
Yeah. Or she's trying to make it look like this is what she's like play along. I know it's not working, but just play along. Come on. And just make him do it for him.
Yeah. Do it for me, doing it for him. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like it's good stuff. They're headed in a great direction with all of that. Yeah, I liked there was just not much that I found myself latching onto. It was like good. They're starting to get rid of all the stuff that I didn't like in seasons 3 and 4. They're going in the right direction. They're not there yet. Is kind of what I got with that.
Yeah,
one.
season 5's like a piece of connective tissue between 4 and 6. Oh, there's good stuff in season 5, but when I think looking back at the series as a whole, for me, the sweet spots are like the second half of season 4 and then 6 and 7.
Yeah. I'm looking at the list of episodes on Wikipedia right now to remind myself all of this stuff. So this is the one when 21 quits.
Yeah.
And joins Sphinx right as Sphinx disbands.
so like he's all of Sphinx and he has to try and find other guys.
Yeah. Which that one I thought was really funny that he put out an ad on Craigslist to recruit for Sphinx, and the only people that respond are the original Sphinx members. They're like, is this a joke? And that doesn't really work out for him. We see some more stuff. Yeah, there is the whole like more stuff about the OSI and learning more about that. Let's see, what happened in this one? Bot Seeks Bot.
Oh, Bot Seeks Bot this is an episode I've mentioned a couple times. This is the one where the two robots go on a date.
Yeah.
And I've brought this up as an example of how the show will take these real, seemingly insignificant things that just the creators find really funny. And they'll just indulge themselves and build a whole episode out of that. But you look back at Bot Seeks Bot, and it's like, oh, there was the Monarch's dad, like the guy he thought was his dad. Like,
yeah.
Like the whole time behind one of those robots was like Jonas Venture's greatest failure. And when he's like he's broken at the end of the episode. He's like knocked down and like his circuits are kind of frying, and he starts reliving his last moments as Mr. Fitzcarraldo. He's like, the plane is going down. Honey, where is my wife? Where is my son?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is something I noticed, but it stands out more in hindsight. That character's name is Vendetta, which is a play on vendetta, but it also starts with Ven, like venture.
Yes!
And so it's just like, I get it. I see it now.
It's all there.
It's all right in front of me.
There's so much nuance in this show. Like
and his name before that was something else with a
Venturian.
Yeah, see? Same thing.
Yeah. This poor guy's had like 3 different identities.
Oh, man. Yeah. Let's see. So season 5 ends with we kind of see JJ died. That's the one that it starts with him like in the middle of the desert, right? At
that's
the
how
crash site.
That's how season 7 opens. Is a flashback to when he was still alive, and he finds the wreck of the Gargantua 1 in the desert, not knowing that when he's looking at the problem light, he's looking at his own father. And like Jonas's memory in there. This is what's so heartbreaking about Jonas's head in the problem light.
It's just been sitting there.
An amazing twist. It's so silly and so effective at the same time, because he's like this sort of pseudo half electronic consciousness stuck in this computer box.
Right.
And he looks out and like he recognizes his old friends like Colonel Gentleman and the Action Man, and he recognizes Rusty, but like he has no idea JJ is his son. And he looks at Hank and Dean and he thinks they're just, oh, they're recruits for the space program. Like he doesn't know those are his grandsons. Like he's so close to his family and he has no idea. And if he did have any idea, what would he even do? He doesn't seem to be a particularly caring man. He has these fleeting moments of tenderness. Like when the Monarch shows up, he recognizes him. He looks over and he's like, Malcolm.
Yeah.
Like he knows that's his son.
He's like, what'd you call me?
Your name is Malcolm?
Malcolm the Monarch. Funny stuff.
All this in Gargantua 2 is the episode where JJ dies. That's a neat episode. That does a lot. And like everybody is in it.
Yeah, that's the start of season 6.
Yeah, like kind of a bridge between season 5 and season 6. And that's why the show moves to New York. JJ's died, and what he's left, his brother, is a bunch of company assets in like the company tower in New York City.
Yeah. Before we get into season 6, the last thing I want to mention about season 5 is the whole thing about Hank or that Dean has now learned that they are clones.
Yes.
Because that whole scene is weird. It was kind of like their Halloween episode-ish. And Hank and Dermot are trying to scare Dean, who's being kind of a dick. They're all being dicks, but in their own way. And they send him to go check out I forget what they're called, some fields, and their father has always been like, don't go over there.
They call it a potter's field, which I guess is a sort of a term for like a masked, unmarked graveyard. Like over the years, this is where Brock has gone to bury like every dead minion he's had to destroy. Every henchman's back there. And there's an old man who lives in a house on the outskirts of that field. So they get confused and they're like, oh, that's Potter. His name is Potter. And he's like, my name is Ben. I think you're confused.
He's just some random old guy. He's just sitting there. And they're just like, we've always been told to avoid you. He's like, well, my name's Ben, so I don't like, I have nothing to do with this.
Right.
Like, he just happens to live like right next to it, so they just assumed it was like, oh, there is something there. I mean, he's not entirely random.
Yeah.
But he is just this like forgotten character that we have not known until then.
The show does this. This is also with it's like what happened with Everybody Comes to Hank's, where it's like, yeah, we all know Dermot's sister Nikki and Hank's crush on her. It's like we haven't, but I buy that. I buy that this has been happening for a while, sure. And then that angle of the family comes in and is a huge game changer. And it's the same thing with this guy. He was like an old science partner of Jonas's, and like he like knew Rusty growing up, and like knows that everybody's a clone. He knew that the boys were clones, so he tells this to Dean, and he knew that Rusty was a clone, and he told his robot, like he's got another model of a helper, which was really fun to see. And there's an episode later where Dean goes back to try and visit him, and he's not there, but he just talks to the helper the whole time. And the helper like talks to Dean about being a clone. And then at the end when they're saying goodbye, he's like, well, goodbye, Rusty. And Dean's like, oh no, he thought I was my dad, and that means my dad is a clone too.
Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah.
So I liked the direction that Series 5 was going, but again, season 6, I was like, yes, this is good.
Yeah.
I like this one.
I dig it a lot. I like the setting change, because the show is made by New Yorkers, and to have it set in their own city, I think really makes it
helps
come alive. Like everything feels really loving and specific. The production values step up a whole lot. The show keeps looking better and better, and season 6 and 7 are particularly gorgeous.
yeah, the animation looks incredible. There's just a lot more love and care, I'm sure, because that's the thing. The show has always been really good.
Yeah.
But they just keep finding their niche of being like, this is it. This is great stuff,
Yeah.
And they keep just like focusing in on that. And I don't know how long they plan to keep making the show, but I could see it going for 5 more seasons, and they can just keep coming up with new stuff. And I think they've progressed the show enough with Hank and Dean growing older and going to college and stuff like that, and how that changes the dynamic of this show. But at the same time, like, it's still them going on stupid adventures and being mixed up with arch enemies and stuff like that. Like, I really think that they could continue the show for a lot longer, and it would do spectacularly.
It is so rich, and the mythology stuff is really satisfying, and they're good at, I guess, like, they meter it out really slowly. Like, it has taken us 7 seasons to get a scrap of identity about Hank and Dean's mom.
Yeah. Indeed. So season 6, they're in New York. They have Ventec Towers. I like the alarm clock that Dr. Venture has. He hasn't reprogrammed it, so it's still this hologram of JJ being like, "Good morning to me." Like, it's time to wake up. There's all of that stuff. They all have their own like fancy rooms.
Yeah.
Dean
Brock
is off at college.
Brock is back as the main bodyguard now. He was off with like the OSI and Sphinx for like 2 seasons. But now that Dr. Venture's come into all of this money and all this company power, the OSI is kind of watching over him, is like, he needs a high-level bodyguard again. Like, we can't just have hatred keep doing this.
You can be the front desk man, hatred.
Right. He's still completely loyal, just manning the desk all the time, still trying to be active in the boys' life.
Yeah. He's trying. He's just not good.
And
that is also one of the things that I liked about this. We don't see Dermot much anymore. Like, I don't remember, besides that Halloween episode in season 5, we don't really see him again until I think like late in season 6, right? Or like early season 7 when he shows back up, and he's a new recruit for what's their names?
OSI.
Yeah.
He's in season 5 a little bit more. Like, there's the episode where they break into the mental institution where Myra is. And that's the episode that kind of closes out that option as, no, she's not the boy's mom. Like, we're kind of putting a pin in that thing.
Yeah.
He's in that one. And that's the one where, like, Dr. Orpheus gets involved. And he was like trying to find out where the boys are. And he's like, I seek a venture boy in need. And he appears and it's like, oh, it's Dermot. And so this is how Dermot gets clued into.
Yeah.
Am I a venture? Is that guy, might add. Like, Dermot figures, he doesn't know that his sister is his mom and his mom is his grandma, but he knows who his dad is now. And all of that stuff has been like happening in the background, kind of. Like, season 4 and 5 lead you to believe that's going to be a bigger plot point than it is. And it's still being addressed just like off screen. Like, when he shows up as an OSI recruit, he mentions like, yeah, my dad got me this job as long as I don't tell anybody that we're related. Yeah. So Doc and Dermot have come to some sort of terms with each other. And then in the last episode of season 7, where Dean is talking to Hank in the coma, he's like, did you know Dermot is our half brother? And like, that's his mom. Dad got drunk once and told me, which is, again, completely off screen. All this stuff happens off screen. And like, even like we were talking about like the rest of Dermot's family and like Ben out in the Potter's field, like all this stuff is like only introduced as soon as it becomes necessary, but you look at it and you buy all of it. Like, yes, I believe that happened.
I believe it, and I'm also thankful it happened that way. I think if I liked Dermot more and I was more invested in his story, I would be upset that it's like, it happened off screen? Come on, like, show me that stuff. But I just don't like him. I think he's a terrible character. And I liked that he didn't show up as much in season 6 and 7. I was like, oh, thank God.
I like how he's used, though. Like, him being an OSI recruit makes a lot of sense. Like, I'm like, oh, good for you. That seems like a place where, you would fit in and that would kind of shape you up a little bit.
Yeah. And same thing with Hatred. He's not an interesting character to me. So I like that. It's like, sure, he's a good joke. He's a good gag to have there. So I like him being the, like, still just 100% loyal, faithful bodyguard, but he's only the front desk guy. He's like barely a security guard. He's like a mix between that and a receptionist.
Right, and he's also like, the Ventec Tower is filled with all of these relics of Venture family past, going all the way back to like Doc's great-great-grandfather. Yeah. So it's filled with all these exhibits, and he leads tours.
Museum security guard. So I was thankful for that stuff. The stuff that I really enjoyed about season 6 and 7 was more of the Guild of Calamitous Intent stuff, of just like finally learning more about them and who they are and what they are. And this whole idea that because Venture came into all of this money, he is now like for someone to arch him, it needs to be our top of the line villain. Yeah. So Dr. Monarch, sorry, you're not our top of the line villain. And so he has to like find some way to get back to arching to get back to arching the Venture. And so there's this whole plot of like, he finds this bat cave underneath his new house, and inside are the suits for the Blue Morpho and Kato, which is their spoof on Green Hornet. And so he takes up that mantle with the idea of like, what if I killed these other supervillains till I work my way up basically till there are no other supervillains above me, and by default I will have to arch Dr. Venture. And so I loved that. I loved the whole mystery behind that of like, who is doing this, and Dr. Mrs. the Monarch has to like she's dealing with that in her work. What's their names? The 13, the like
they were originally the Council of 13, and this is something else that happens in all this in Gargantua too, is that like the sovereign kind of turns on the guild and it's completely dissolved. There's like there's a handful of them left, and they're trying to make a new council, and they're like, well, we don't have 13 of us, but that was the sovereign's idea in the first place. We have like old guild paperwork from before that says it doesn't matter how many of us there are. We can do it with like 6 and watch and ward at the kids' table.
Yeah. And they're like, woohoo! We've made it. But like, I like that she has to deal with all of that without knowing that that's what the Monarch is doing. It just makes the whole story and the whole plot of what is happening in season 5 a lot more complicated, because you have You have Monarch's story. You have Mrs. Monarch's story. You have Dr. Venture's storyline. You have Hank and Dean's storyline about them in college and one of them finding love and then the other one kind of sleeping with her eventually. And, and like there's so much happening. And it's packed. And I love it. I was like, this is great. This is so good.
Season 6 is so tight. Like I was talking about A Party for Tarzan, which is one of the tightest episodes of the series, I think. Like you can see all of these things like it's one of the episodes that like starts at the end and then it works its way back to the beginning and loops around. And you can see every single piece of setup being laid out, like even the most insignificant props and happenstances all align for this. But the New York season does is that I think it puts a lot of characters in really tight spaces, sort of. Like you've got Ventec Tower, and then across the street you've got where Wide Whale and Serena live. And then the Monarchs aren't too far away. Like everything's right there, and it's like twisting in on itself really tightly.
Yeah.
And then it gets even more like that as more characters come in. Like I think how they have to kind of move everybody to New York. It's like, well, the Billy and White are going to move there, and the Order of the Triad's going to move there. Yeah, like I think the Fictals are the only characters like left in the dust. The Fictals and like the rest of the Impossibles. Like Sally's living on her island, hopefully peacefully.
Yeah. I do want to mention Wide Whale. Because that was one of the ones that you were like, things are calling back to season 1 and all of that stuff. And yeah, the whole thing with the Wide Whale and his kind of like vendetta, I guess you could say, against the Monarch is that in what it was season 1.
No, it's season 3. It's season 3. Like after he's gotten married and Dr. Mrs. the Monarch's like, we're not doing Venture anymore. Like we're going to find you a new arch. Like we need a clean start here.
That's right.
And they try and arch this guy named Dr. Dugong, who's like just the softest, most like ineffectual superhero. And the Monarch completely goes off on him and just destroys this man in their first fight.
Him.
Right. And it's like an episode that you don't really, like it's not terribly remarkable until season 6 when they bring in that guy's brother.
Yeah, which is the Wide Whale.
Yeah.
And he's like, and I have been like working for this moment for so long because you killed my brother and obliterated him. And, it's just like, this is good. I like that. Like they've really found their footing on like how to build up all of these characters in the right way where I'm like, oh, I like that. This is good. Oh, that connects to this thing back then.
Yes.
I love that,
And there's so many echoes. Like we have another case of I'm doing something on behalf of my brother and you're also fighting your brother, kind of. We are going to come to find out. Like there's all these echoes and patterns of things. And one of the other arches that they tried when it's like, you can't arch Dr. Venture. Maybe you can arch the other Dr. Venture. And like he fights JJ for an episode where it's like, yeah, you were fighting your brother then too.
Exactly. Okay, I wanted to talk about the opening 3 episodes of season 7. Because these, I think, were some of their best episodes, period.
It's an absolute
for what
high
you
point.
Just said of just like how tight it all is and how they're all like intertwining. You texted me and was like, hey, the first 3 episodes in season 7 is basically all one story. If you can watch those all back to back. I was able to watch the first 2 and then I watched that third one that next day, but it kind of works out because the first 2 are the most closely intertwined.
Yeah,
and
they're like
the third
exact
is like
parallels to each other time wise.
And then the third is like the aftermath of that stuff. So it worked out. But I loved what they did, because you said we have Ventet Towers, and then on the opposite side of the street we have the Wide Whales Tower. I guess they're like penthouse suite. And this is part of where the whole Blue Morpho storyline is coming to a finish. Or I guess kind of, because some stuff still happens after that. But Dr. and Mrs. the Monarch is about to take the shot on the Blue Morpho, or who they think is the Blue Morpho, because they're in the outfit. And at the start of season 7, we see them take the shot, and it looks like they kill him. And we know that the Blue Morpho has been the Monarch, and so we're like, oh no. But then we come to find out that that's actually not the Monarch. That's Dr. Venture, who was dressed up as the Monarch because
this is in A Party for Tarzan. This is like the second to last episode of season 6. And I was listening to the commentary, and they're like, we tried so hard to like rearrange little bits of continuity so that this could be the season 6 finale, but we couldn't quite close it. So that's why it's like this giant episode that's the second to last one, and then there's the finale, which is also good, but far less epic than that preceding episode is.
Yeah. But goodness gracious. It like all of that comes into a head. There's the whole computer virus of all of Ventec Towers is shaking and wobbling, and they're like, what is going on? Like there's just chaos. And I'm like, this is great.
It is great. I'll tell you what I love about that trilogy of episodes is that so they think the house is haunted because it's Jonas's spirit inside the computer that's like connected to all this stuff in the tower. And they're like, it's haunted. We have Dean thinks it's haunted, so he calls Dr. Orpheus in. And then Doc's like, no, it's like a computer glitch problem. And he puts Billy and White on it. And everything starts freaking out. And Billy's like, I'm out of here, White. You can stay and figure this out if you want. And like later, like you lose him for a while, and then suddenly at the end of the episode, he bursts out like he's all sweaty, like he's got his jacket tied around his waist. He's holding an axe, and he's like, "That's the problem." And he like slashes Jonas in half, like everything keeping Jonas alive. He just attacks with an axe.
Yeah,
it's like I really like that because I love White, but he's the least protagonist out of any of these characters. He's the character who's like the most prevalent while having the least to do. Like this is something I've figured out. Like, oh, Billy's a protagonist. Billy gets to do things. White does not. It's like, oh, he actually gets to. Yeah, it's like you actually get to do something.
He's the sidekick of a sidekick.
Yeah. So I liked that. And I like that this, like, the ultimate downfall of Jonas Venture is, like, his son's college friend who keeps hanging around and, like, nobody knows who he is or why he's there. And another thing that's great about those episodes, we were talking about how, like, tight it is. I noticed, like, they are specifically keeping track of physically where everybody is. Like, you see all of these wide shots, and it's okay. We remember that's where Billy and White are standing. That's where Hatred's standing. That's where Jefferson Twilight is standing. I'm like, this is all so consistent. You didn't lose anybody.
I would love to see them planning this one out. And like all the like maps and charts and models they have of like, okay, here they have a vantage point right there, you know. And it's
these
like
are everyone's
whole, like,
sight lines. Yeah.
Yeah, it's some like big JFK style. Like, well, this guy's standing over here. He can you know.
The butter dish
guy
represents the tank
on the lawn, but who is the cameraman? And you know.
Those are great. Like they kind of rewrite. They don't rewrite the history, but it goes back to episode 2, which is not much of an episode. Like early season 1 is still like pretty rough. They're still figuring things out. And it goes back to this like otherwise forgettable episode. And it's like, no, this was extremely important the entire time. That throwaway line the side character had, that is now a major plot point. This is one of our biggest mysteries going forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's not to say season 1 or season 2 were bad. It was just like they're still fantastic for what they were. This show has just transformed so much that, like, looking back, you're like, simpler times.
Right, like it keeps eclipsing itself.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. You sent me some extra information in Discord. Let's start covering that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I sent you the Duran Duran video.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit more about Billy Quizboy and his arch nemesis.
Yeah,
I was gonna say his venture.
He is part of the team. Oh, and another thing we find out is that his mom, this is something we also get in season 5, is that we meet Billy's mom. His
mom is great.
And she's amazing. And she also used to be a superhero who was fighting alongside original Team Venture. And it seems that Billy has no idea. Like, she's completely hidden this from him his entire life. But she can still
also
absolutely...
wasn't really on the show. And
no,
he was so obsessed with the show.
Right. It seems like she was just a recurring ally that would show up in the Venture series and in their real life adventures. But she, like, settled down, like, had a kid. We don't know who Billy's dad is. I don't know if that's another mystery we get to explore, if that guy matters. But yeah, she also had this whole superhero life, like, stopped it, kept it quiet, has never told her son. But she still has all of these skills and can kick anybody's ass. And she's just this sweet old lady that's like, I'm so proud of my son and his boyfriend, his handsome boyfriend.
She thinks they're gay.
Right. And Billy's like, well, I didn't tell her. She just came up with it and I couldn't say no. And then she sent us all those gifts. You love that sideboard. Which is... There's so much going on in the series. Like, this is not plot and mythology relevant, but for 2 seasons, Billy and White have just been pretending to be a couple for Billy's mom.
Yeah. But Billy Quizboy ends up getting his own arch nemesis, St. Cloud. What's his first name?
Augustus St. Cloud, who is a background character with 2 lines in the garage sale episode in season 1. And he's like a background character they'll pull out. Like, I think you see him in like season 3 at a supervillain party. Like, he's at the party where the Monarch and Dr. Girlfriend met when they were young. He just is a stock character in the background.
So he starts arching Billy Quizboy and all of that stuff, and he is this just kind of unassuming, like, oddly polite, but still just a complete pain in the ass of an arch nemesis. And his only superpower is that he has money.
He's extremely rich, so he just tries to buy his way out of everything.
Yeah, there's one good scene when the Monarch is like trying to train him and do all of this stuff, and he's like, "So what are your superpowers?" And he's like, "You're cloud themed, right? So can you like change the weather? Can you make lightning and do all that stuff?" He's like, "No." He keeps saying like, "No, I don't have any powers. No." And then finally he's like, "I have a lot of money." He's like, "That'll work. We can buy everything."
It is nice to see. It's a good juxtaposition to see this very, like, it's so low stakes. They take it very seriously. Yeah. Like they were. Billy's origin story is that he was on a TV game show, which is how he met White. Like, White was the game show host. I love that that's their origin story. They are a game show host and contestant who ran away together. But like, they say that St. Cloud was like one of his game show opponents that he beat, and this guy is and like they've run in the same circles of like trivia and collecting things. Like one of the other major parts of the vendetta is that Billy grabbed an item off eBay that St. Cloud really wanted, and he's got this. Like his lair is filled with all these collectibles. Like, yes, that is an original
Arching in the modern
Sigmund
age.
the Sea Monster puppet.
Yeah.
He's bought, like, he buys Helper at the beginning of season 5 when Dr. Venture needs all this money and he starts selling stuff. St. Cloud buys it and he's bought Helper. And White's like, he sold Helper? That's so cold. Maybe we should adopt Helper.
So help me understand what's happening with this whole St. Cloud arching Billy Quizboy with this red ball. There's this weird joke about this red ball, and you're like, Kyle, this is all from a Duran Duran music video.
Yes.
I have to admit, I still haven't watched it. I was kind of waiting for you to explain all of this stuff on the show, and so then I was like, okay, now let me go back and watch this stuff. So what is this whole thing?
In the music video for Duran Duran's song, Is There Something I Should Know? It's like a weird 80s music video, so it keeps flashing around in like time and space, and there's this motif of this bouncing like red rubber ball. So within the canon of the show, Billy and White have gotten this ball. Billy believes it to be a legitimate magical object. And St. Cloud tries to steal it. The whole episode is about this ball, and then at the end, like, they wind up boxed into where it's like St. Cloud's like, I will give you the ball back if you sign over all of Conjectural Technologies, all of your little science corporation, like sign over your lives to me for the ball. And Billy's like, you've got a deal. And then St. Cloud turns around and sells them to Dr. Venture for more money. So that's how they get to New York. That's how they're also part of like the Ventec Tower family.
It's so dumb.
Right. Oh, something really interesting is that we've got this Duran Duran themed episode. The last episode of season 7 has a whole Barbarella sequence. Yes. Duran Duran got their name from the movie Barbarella. The villain in Barbarella is named Durand Durand, and they just cleaned that up, named their band after it, and went on to record such hits as Save a Prayer and Rio and The Reflex.
When did... Okay, in the 60s. I was going to say, when did Barbarella come out? So yeah, it makes sense that Barbarella would be something that this show pulls from, especially like, hey, we're a spoof off of like Johnny Quest, which was a cartoon back in the 60s and stuff like that. And here is Barbarella from 68, you know? Despite this last chunk of seasons being more 80s themed, I felt like, or like late 70s themed with all of the like spy stuff. Well, I don't know. Because if they're pulling from spy stuff and all of that, like I go straight to like James Bond, and that's still like you could still say that's still very 60s.
Yeah, there's Bonds in every era, from Connery to Dalton.
Yeah, there is. But for some reason, I was like, it's the 80s. They're pulling on stuff from the 80s.
Oh, I think when I think about New York and big business, I do also think about 80s movies. You know, like Gremlins 2, The New Batch, my favorite film.
Sure. Which we have also covered on an episode of the review show. And I
think I did pitch you Barbarella as an option for episode 69.
Did you really?
I think I did. Like, I knew the whole time, it's like, he's going to pick sex criminals, so who cares the other two things that I pitch?
Interesting. I don't remember that, yeah. But, so, yeah, then there's this whole thing with Barbarella, which I didn't understand, but I also was like, okay, I know what Barbarella is. I've heard of it. I haven't seen it. So them making all, you know, this big long joke of like, it's basically Star Wars. Like, it was like, huh, kind of makes me want to go watch Barbarella to see how true that actually is. But I think we were talking off camera after you and I recorded the captain's log this past week, and you were explaining it, and I was like, yeah, the only thing I think I know about Barbarella is that isn't there this big long sex scene like in space?
Not exactly. Barbarella is
she's naked in a big.
Okay, so she goes into her spaceship. She strips out of her spacesuit. She is floating around naked, and the credits appear over all of the parts of her body. And then, like, so she lives in this future where humanity has evolved.
Titties.
Humanity has evolved beyond sex, and when you want to get intimate with a partner, you just touch hands to each other, and you take this pill that like simulates the feeling of sex. Right. So she shows this to some
Team Venture.
It's like this, but I mean, I guess it could be. And like she does this to some guy, and he's like, well, how about we try it the old-fashioned way? And then she does it, and she's like, oh boy, old-fashioned sex. And like the villain puts her in a sex piano. Like he puts her in this big contraption that has keys on it, and he's playing the keys, and it hits different parts of her body, and she orgasms so hard she breaks the machine.
See, I knew I was onto something with like there's sex and space and titties
but it's
and
still
something.
Less sexy than you hope it would be. Barbarella's like great in concept. I have watched the entire film, and I'm like, I wish there was more to this. Like, I feel like the legend of Barbarella is better than actual Barbarella.
I mean, there are comics you can go check out and stuff like that. Barbarella comics.
Nice. We just need a new Barbarella for a new generation.
Bring back Barbarella.
Right.
More space titties.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were talking about that. I was more just like, I mean, I know Barbarella exists, but besides that, I don't understand all of these Easter eggs and all of that stuff. So thank you for pointing all of that stuff out.
I'm here to help. I have also listened to the DVD commentary for all of these, and there's some interesting stuff in the commentary, including a very promising tease for season 8. So, you know, in the second to last episode where the Monarch and 21 go play lawn darts with that guy from the Peril Partnership, and this guy has stolen all of these various props and relics from like superhero and supervillain past, and he's got a time machine. And then at the end of the episode, Doc and Billy come out of the time machine real briefly. So they're talking about that. And how
strange, like Doctor Who style, just like, what is going on?
Like they just get out, yell, they distract the villain guy so that the lawn dart, he's not watching out for the lawn dart, and it comes down through his head, and that's how they vanquish the foe. And then they just go back in the time machine, and like you have no idea how they got there. Last you saw Doc and Billy, they were just flying overhead in a plane, so you don't know how they got zapped into the time machine. So this was like a one-off joke that I think Doc Hammer wrote into the episode. Jackson's like, I can make something out of this. You have to make sure that Doc is missing a finger. Dr. Venture has to come out of that thing without a finger because I have something I want to make out of this. So that blip of a weird joke, it seems like that's going to be a whole thing because they come out of the time machine. He's
at
missing
least
a finger.
some like single episode bit of just
but
like, this is what's going to happen.
Part of it is they come out of there and they see the Monarch, and Dr. Venture says, Malcolm? And they're talking about in the commentary that, like, yes, he knows that is his name, but he's known him as the Monarch for so long, wouldn't it be his instinct to just say, oh, the Monarch's here? And they're like, he's been through something between the last time that we saw him and when he comes out of the time machine in a tuxedo with a Titanic lifesaver around his neck, missing a finger. Like, he has come to be so familiar with Malcolm that he calls him Malcolm first time on instinct. So I am so excited to find out what the heck that whole storyline is.
Is that what they said, that like he is so intimate, I guess, if that's now the right word, with the monarch, that he calls him Malcolm? Or is it a mystery as still, like, why would he call him Malcolm?
No, like that's what they're saying. Like he has come to be more familiar with the monarch and his more human persona. Why? Like, what have they been through? Like, why is it his instinct to say that's Malcolm and not to say that's the monarch?
Yeah. Because, like, I'm even wondering, if, like, we know that Dr. Venture is a clone. What if one of the deaths of, or like the original Dr. Venture got stuck in a time machine and has just been this, like, Doctor Who style, like fixing things in time,
so
and he's the original one, and they just were like, what happened? We need to clone my son, so things, like.
So this is Rusty Prime that has come out of the time machine with
maybe
who knows what version of Billy.
Yeah, who knows? Some Billy from the future.
Does this have anything to do with the Duran Duran ball and its possible time and space powers?
Honestly, I wouldn't put it past them. Especially if they're time traveling and like hopping around to like different times and different dimensions, or who knows what. And they discovered this magical ball, and it is this thing that shows up throughout history, and it's in a Duran Duran music video and all this stuff.
This is what's great about the show, is that there's so many mysteries, and you wonder if there was somebody, because of course the audience doesn't know, but you wonder if there was what?
Sorry to interrupt. Back in season 2, 3, and 4, there was that whole thing with the orb. What if this is the actual orb?
The actual orb is the please tell me ball?
Yes, it's a red rubber bouncy ball with magical powers.
And we're gonna get to see that alternate universe Doc from the end of Everybody Comes to Hanks.
What if that is? Oh my God, Melissa!
It all comes together. It all comes together. But what I was saying is that there's so many.
Go ahead.
Like, there's so many mysteries in the show that the audience doesn't know, but you wonder if some character does know them. Like, you get this in the last episode, where the Action Man mentions that, at least to his knowledge,
we need more Ben. Where's Ben when we need him? That just knew that they were
bring out
clones
Ben
and stuff.
Bring out the New Zealand helper.
Yeah.
But the Action Man tells Hank that, at least to his knowledge, Hank and Dean's mom is an actress named Bobby St. Simone, which makes sense, is either the truth or at least something Dr. Venture would say is the truth. Like, that seems like a name he might make up, but who knows? And this is the first scrap of identity we've ever had for her, and it makes sense. Like, there's been this whole mystery about who Hank and Dean's mom is, and I have always suspected it's probably not anyone plot relevant. It's just some woman that broke Dr. Venture's heart and, like, just left him with these boys and is, like, completely broken him, and that's why he never talks about her. It's just some woman he fell for.
Passed away on some adventure that they had.
The Action Man implies that he couldn't let go of her. Like, he kept pursuing her, and she left town and changed her name, and that's what her new name is. She is now Bobby St. Simone.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder if Rust, or if the original Dr. Venture knew that, and maybe that was also part of his globe-trotting adventures of, like, trying to find her. More of like a where in the world is Carmen Sandiego.
Oh, so when he's dragging the kids around to, like, Tijuana and the Sargasso Sea and everybody, he's like, maybe I'll find her again? Oof. Oh,
he's
painful.
Like, come on, Gumshoes. We got this one. We can find her.
Gumshoes. But this has been a major mystery of the show, and it turns out like, yeah, the Action Man has known about this. He just hasn't told the boys. So I wonder like, oh, does Doc know, hey, Billy, do you know your mom used to be a superhero? Like, what things do other characters know that we are just waiting for them to tell somebody else?
That seems to be a theme where like one character just knows something and just assumes it's common knowledge or assumes other people know, but they don't. And so when they find out, it's just like, oh, like you didn't know that your dad was a clone too?
Right?
Like, oops, you know?
Yeah, and like I wonder how many people do know that the boys are clones? Because I've been thinking about this. Like, do Billy and White go far enough back with Dr. Venture where even if he didn't tell them, like they've noticed, like, shouldn't the boys be older by now? What, are we just now celebrating their 18th birthday? Shouldn't they be 20 or something like that?
Yeah.
Like, was Nikki Fichtel so obsessed with Dr. Venture that she was tracking this? And she's like, no, Hank's 18 by now. I remember when my hero had his children. Like, who is following this closely enough that they're like, wait a minute, something's wrong?
Yeah. There has to be someone. Something else I was gonna say with the whole time machine thing. What if it's like a weird, awkward paradox thing where like they are their own, like the Monarch is actually like Rusty's actual father or something, or he like.
Oh, this is gonna turn into that episode of Futurama where Philip J. Fry is his own grandfather.
Yeah. What if it's something like that?
Oh, man, I don't know. Wild. I don't know. Like, there's so much cloning. Like, they could do a lot with cloning if they wanted to.
They could do a whole Star Wars joke with more Attack of the Clone style stuff. They have Old Man Ben, who's this recluse who's out there, you know. He could be some like Ben Kenobi style character. Like, I knew your father back in the Clone Wars. Who knows?
So much stuff could be happening. Good. Yeah, and like the season leaves off with, at least the Monarch has been told you and Dr. Venture are blood relations. Like, this is as much as we know. And they're talking about this in the commentary that they left it kind of vague. Oh, there's the scene where he goes into the tent where it's like, where the guild is like, you have the option, the choice is yours. You can go into the tent, you can kill Dr. Venture right here, right now, and we will cover everything up and there will be no consequences for you. And he chooses not to kill him. It's like a test. But they're like, we left it kind of open-ended. Like, you don't know how long the two of them were in that tent. You don't know what they said to each other. Like, we left ourselves this blank space that we could fill in the future as we needed to. And also the way, like, the Monarch gets that information. Like, they said, we didn't show it. Like, you hear him yell, what? Like, from the outside of the spaceship. So it's like, we don't know, like, if that was whispered into his ear. We don't know if that was said out loud. So we don't know if like Dr. Venture was able to hear it, or like 21 or Dr. Mrs. the Monarch. Like,
right.
It's so fuzzy. Like, all we know is they are blood relations of some kind. And now the Monarch knows this. And from here, we have to see exactly how they build on that and what the other details are.
Yeah. So I'll be honest. I was a little bit confused with the last 3 episodes and that whole storyline. So I'm still kind of hazy on what happened with those ones. Because there did seem to be some like weird time traveling stuff. That's when they were making all of the like Star Wars Barbarella comparisons. Like I liked the episodes, but for some reason my brain was just not really following along with what happened.
So I have, here in this quarantine time, when I need something to focus on, I need a coping mechanism. I've watched through all of season 7 twice and then another time with commentary. And then I went back. I've watched the Safrax Protocol 3 times and then another time with commentary. So let me see if I can help you out.
So what happened?
Okay. All right. So the episode before that, in the Forecast Manufacturer, So there's this giant snowstorm that they figure out, I think like the OSI or somebody figures out this is man-made. And Dr. Venture, we're sending you in there to go figure it out. And he brings Billy along. And they have to stop this weather machine that's putting this giant, like 3-foot deep blizzard across New York City. And the weather machine, and then at the same time, the guild is sending Monarch and 21 on a mission to take down the leader of the Peril Partnership, who's like they're like a B grade guild of calamitous intent, you know? They're like the RC Cola to the Coca-Cola that is the guild, kind of. But they've been like trying to usurp their power, like sending in moles, and they're like, we're taking out the Peril Partnership. So that's what Monarch and 21 are going over there to do. And then I think that's like, I don't know how related that is. I think that is related to the weather machine. Like that's all part of one deal together. And at least it's operating in the same physical space. Like Doc and Billy are flying around over where the Monarch and 21 are. And then, so there's all the snow on the ground. And Hank can't get a hold of his girlfriend, Serena. We haven't talked about Serena yet. Serena is a great addition to the show.
She's
I really appreciate her. He can't get a hold of her, so, you know, based on his own childhood experiences, he's like, oh, she's been kidnapped, replaced with a robot, attacked by ninjas, all of this stuff. So he goes out into the snow to he's going to walk to go find her. And he hits his head on a light post. And he falls down like he's got a concussion, and the Scare Bear comes to pick him up, who was a one-off gag villain we saw in season 4, who's just a silent person in a dirty bear costume holding a bloody knife, has never spoken. We don't know this person's deal, but they pick up Hank like they know where they're going. Like they've got Hank, they're carrying him, and they take him to Dean's dorm, because Dean is in college and he decided to live on campus to get away from all the superhero, supervillain nonsense.
Right.
Like the bear takes Hank there, and like Serena has slept with Dean. Like they both go to the same college. Like we've seen them interact before, and like they just slept together. And Hank is like so freaked out by this, plus the fact that he hit his head on a light post, that he just passes out. He just loses consciousness. And then the next episode, he's in the hospital. He's in a coma. And while he's in a coma, he's like in a purgatory state.
Yeah.
And he thinks he's in heaven, and in his world, heaven would take the form of The Empire Strikes Back. Back in episode 3, back in arrears in science, the Action Man had a stroke and has also been in a coma. And off screen a couple episodes ago, the villain Phineas Phage, who's one of these Guild of Calamitous Intent guys, also was in an accident. So those two are also in comas. So we have 3 unrelated characters that are in comas at the same time that are all sharing the same coma dream space. And to Hank, it looks like The Empire Strikes Back, and to the Action Man, it looks like Barbarella. So all the imagery is a mix of those two things. And then at the end, Hank makes himself wake up. He leaves the hospital, and he runs away, and he's gonna go off and like find out who he truly is, and like develop an identity and grow up. And that's how the season ends.
And he's like, and call me Batman.
Yeah, and like the ending is like, speaking of Sam Raimi from our past episode, the ending is an homage to Darkman, when Darkman turns around at the end of the movie and he's got another different face.
So dumb.
Okay, does this make sense to you?
So yeah, that makes sense. It for some reason it just felt like there was more going on in the midst of all of that, and so I was just like, wait a minute, like I feel like I'm missing something here, but
there are,
guess not.
Oh, there are questions like, who is Scare Bear? Where did Scare Bear go? Is that going to be like an actual plot point, or is this just like kind of a weird mystic jokey thing that, oh, remember that one-off joke villain that, you know, they're going to show up and carry Hank to where he needs to be. I was watching a video. There was a theory that's like, oh, that's Hank from the future inside that costume.
Right, because at the end, you've seen a time machine.
Right, because at the end of the episode, Dean's like, the nurse comes in, and she's like, he's gone. I mean that he left his bed and we don't know where he is. He is physically gone. We presume he's still alive. And Dean runs out there and he like grabs a guy who looks like Hank from the back, and the guy turns around and he does really look like Hank, because normally that joke goes like, oh, you just look like this person from behind, and from the front you look completely different. No, that looks like Hank with like a beard and a mustache. That's a real close Hank model. So people were theorizing, like, is this Hank from the future? Is this an earlier version of Hank that Doc thought was dead, but really he survived and is still out there and has continued to age, which is why he looks a little older? There's so much going on. There's so much.
I love it.
But then in the midst of all of this, you get Dean talking to Hank, like, while he's in the coma. It's like he's written a letter, like 124 reasons why I am a crap brother. And it is one of the most touching parts of the entire series. It's just Dean talking to Hank while he's unconscious and like telling him all these secrets. Like, did you know, did you know Dad's a clone? Did you know Dermot is our half brother and his mom is that woman you lost your virginity to? All of these things. And it's so sweet. Like Dean says, you know how they say we come into this world alone and we die alone? Well, we came into this world together, Hank. So I need you to come back to me.
Yeah.
It's so sweet.
It's good stuff.
I really like that turn in the boys' storyline, because something I've been noticing is that there's not very much conflict between Hank and Dean. Like, they bicker a little bit. They have their times when
like
they're
that
aloof.
Brotherly conflict, but it's not like true conflict.
Yeah. Like, there's nothing major, and I noticed that, and I was kind of waiting, like, is this something like the next season's going to bring to us? And I like that there is this event that happens between them, but it's not done with malice. Like, it's truly painted as they just screwed up and made a mistake. Like, this, it doesn't paint Dean or Serena as the bad guy in this, which I really appreciated. Like, it's just painted as, whoops, like, we had a moment of weakness and we did this and we're sorry. And like, you can kind of see that Hank kind of accepts that. Like, he's like, I think I remember my brother sleeping with my girlfriend, but like, he doesn't seem upset. And like, I like to see how well adjusted they are and how they are determined to work through this together. But I am also excited, like, oh, we get some form of a conflict between the two of them. Like, what is this going to turn into?
Yeah. I don't know, man. I'll have to wait and see. Do they have any word out on when season 8 is supposed to be coming?
Oh, I have no idea. But season 7 aired in fall 2018. So about
October
a year
7th,
and
2018.
So about a year and a half ago now. So it's typically 2 to 3 years between seasons. You know, it's a New York based, like, part of it's made in New York. So I don't know. Like, everything is delayed right now. Everything is delayed. So I wouldn't imagine we'd get anything before like late 2021.
Yeah. I mean, but that would still
forever.
mean it's like that 3-year mark. So who knows? We'll see. We shall see.
So what do you...
I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to mention before we wrap it up.
What do you think is going to happen in season 8? Like, where do you see the story going, or what do you want to see from the story? Because now we're on an even playing field. We can both theorize together.
Yeah, I mean, I still want to see more, like, tangible confirmation that Rusty and the Monarch are brothers, and they you know, just like, what is them? What are they?
I understand.
And stuff. I like digging into more of the like mysteries of all of this stuff, because even when season 7 opened up, I think, and you see the flashback of Jonas discovering the crash site and all that stuff, like, it seemed like they were uncovering a mystery And I really liked that. And as much as I like all of the OSI stuff, I want that stuff to continue, but I also want them to kind of maybe, scoop back into that original well of like, these guys were boy adventurers.
Yeah.
Like, I want them to go on an adventure, at least for a couple, or just like one big adventure that is kind of intertwined into that whole season. I want that. I want more. How are Rusty and the Monarch related?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, the whole time traveling stuff is interesting to me because, of course, I really like time travel stuff. I have no idea. I think I'm at a space where I'm just like, this show is going somewhere, and I'm just along for the ride.
Right? And I've noticed that there's less of a looming villainous threat right now than we've had previously, because a lot of the villains have kind of been diffused. Phantom Limb isn't really a threat. Wide Whale isn't really a threat. Like, who else is still out there? I don't remember if Monstroso is completely dead or not. Molotov is still out there as some sort of OSI agent now, which happened in like midway in season 5, and they haven't picked it back up yet. Like, I don't know who our next big foe is. Maybe they're not totally done with the Peril partnership yet. Like, there's
because they've kind of been on the outskirts. They were like, okay, we know about them. We know they're kind of a joke. There was that whole like love story romance thing between the robot dude, and then it was like, your belt says PP on it.
I liked their little storyline. I liked that bonus. Like, remember these two joke side characters from the last season? They're back, and you're gonna follow their love story.
Yeah. Like, I think I would like that, or just like what do you remember what happened to whatchamacallit was what was the group that
the Revenge Society?
Yeah.
Is that it? They are also kind of diffused. I don't remember exactly what happened to everybody, because that all happens in all this and Gargantua too, which is a lot going on. I need to go back and watch it, because I don't even remember if like Professor Impossible and Baron Underbite are still alive, or if like, did they die in that? Like, who all is dead? Who all is just sort of like injured and brushed under the rug, and we'll pick them back up when we need to pick them back up.
Yeah. Who knows?
I think, yeah. I'm most excited for the more mythology around the Venture family lineage.
Yeah.
Like, who all is a Venture? How are they all related? Is there some sort of grander scheme to this? The relationships on the show are like the most exciting part to me. Like, I'm excited for the answers, but also like the emotional fallout that those answers will have. Like, what does it mean if Doc and the Monarch find out that they are brothers now? What does that mean for the people around them? Like, is the Monarch going to look at the boys differently now that he knows those are his nephews? Another great development is the part in one episode this season where Dean writes the Monarch a check for $1 million to get him to go away.
Yeah.
There's so much going on, and like, everybody is so close to each other, but their relationships are so amorphous and intangible. And I would appreciate like exploration of that and like narrowing it down. Like, another thing we didn't really get to talk about is the relationship between Monarch and 21. And how, like, when we started season 5, like, 21's off trying to do his own thing. He can't get it started. Like, he kind of misses his old life, and he goes back to the Monarch, and Doctor misses the Monarch. And the three of them all live together in the Monarch's childhood home. And like he's like even closer. Like he's the only one left now. He's still calling himself Henchman 21, but he's the one henchman. Like he's the second in command of the whole thing. And when they have the level 10 ceremony, they give him the option of you can step aside and be your own villain. We'll introduce you at level 4. Like you've got a big leg up on this. Like you could really be taken seriously. And he's like, no, I don't want to. Like I want to keep doing this with my
friend.
Right. And we've got this development where it's like these two actively say, we are best friends. And they have this, it's almost like they're married. Like they're in this ceremony.
What if 21 becomes the main bad guy in season 8? Because as it comes out that Venture and the Monarch are related, maybe they like stop wanting to arch one another and all of that stuff. And if that is the reason that 21 states that he's there. He's like, I just want to help him with his hatred. And if that hatred is no longer there, then what does that say about his identity? Maybe he's like, hey, maybe I will take you up on all of that.
Yeah, like if he's in a position where he is like, because the Monarch has one goal, and it's to arch Dr. Venture. And if that is neutralized, is he a villain and is 21 a henchman anymore? Like, what is he going to want out of his life if that mission is taken away? Like, where is he going to want to... What else is he going to do? Like, that's his whole identity. It says Hench for life tattooed across his stomach. And the two of them are like professionally married to each other in a ceremony with like a commitment statement. And they're both wearing suits. Like, what does that turn into if the whole point of the thing, which is to arch Dr. Venture, is taken away from it? Right. Like, I want to explore these things. I just want to look deeper into like every relationship on the show. I want to find out what it's like for Billy and White to pretend to be together for Billy's mom. And like, where are you both emotionally at with that? And then Doc found out about it. Like, has he been teasing them? Has he been like, are you sure this is all fake? Like, what's that happening? We're going to see the boys grow up. Dean might date that Spider-Man. Who knows?
Oh, man. Let's see. I don't think I have really anything else I want to mention other than, gee, that Eyes Wide Shut episode was sure weird.
God, and I have a million things to say about everything, so you can just stop me when you are done with this. But that Eyes Wide Shut episode is the closest this series is on, like it's been going on forever. It's undergone like really big turns and changes. That is the closest it comes to jumping the shark, and then it backs away like, oh no, like of course we would never do this. Yeah, that's his dream sequence. This isn't really happening. Like this is the only time I've been watching the show like, is this what they're doing now? And then it's a dream sequence at the end. I'm like, oh, I should have trusted you. I'm in good hands. Like, you know what you're doing, and you know how not to shake up your story too much.
It is, like, in the whole world of, like, boy adventuring and superheroes and stuff like that, like, I don't put it past them to make a cult story and just like there is some secret cult out there that could be a villain for season 8, and maybe he's having this dream because as a boy like he had a couple run-ins with this weird mysterious cult and he doesn't really know what they are or who they are.
Like that dream is based off real experiences he has had.
It's based off real experiences, but it's this weird like dream thing, which ended up being a spoof on the Eyes Wide Shut scene. But in real life, that's not what the cult is like. They're not just all naked and having sex and all of that stuff.
But orphans.
Like that could be a thing. Like there is some secret cult in the background behind all of this, and it's always scared him for some reason, and he doesn't know why. Who knows?
This show could really pull anything out and turn it because we've seen it happen already. They're like the last couple seasons have been, hey, remember the seemingly insignificant thing from forever ago that you don't really remember? That's a big deal now, and you're sitting there like, it is a big deal now. Everything is so sincere and compelling with this show. Like when it's really silly, you're invested, and when they're turning something silly and making it into something serious, you're really invested.
Yeah. Oh, interesting show. It's fantastic. I am glad that I watched it. Cannot wait for season 8, whenever it may come.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a great show.
Yeah.
Great show.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. It was a really good rewatch for me. I'm glad like this coincide. Like times are terrible, but I'm glad I accidentally scheduled myself to rewatch my entire favorite show at this time. It's like, oh, good. I've got venture energy to like surround me and carry me through.
It's good stuff.
Good
stuff. Okay. I think that about wraps us up for this one.
Yeah. Did you want to do any recommendations? Because I went back and listened to the first episode we did, and you thought about doing like recommendations then and then recommendations at the end after you had finished the whole thing.
Yeah. So I don't really remember what I recommended at the start. I think it was The Tick and...
it was Quantum and Woody.
Like Superior Foes of Spider-Man, I think.
Maybe.
So yeah, now having watched the show, I don't like. I'm not coming up with anything that is like this is a similar style show of like the mix of comedy and action and lore and all that stuff. But I can point to things like, hey, if you like these aspects of this stuff, it's like maybe you would like this show. I'm also kind of currently slowly rewatching Star Wars Rebels right now. So if you do like good action and characters that have a lot of depth to them that you find out, as the story continues, Star Wars Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels is fantastic. They're both phenomenal and some of, if not the best Star Wars out there. That would be one that I recommend. Oh man, there's a comic that I've been meaning to read and meaning to pitch on the review show at some point that I've never read yet. It's called Next Wave.
Okay.
And it's, I believe, in the Marvel universe, and it is kind of a spoof on superhero comics, and it's comedy, and they just make fun of a whole bunch of stuff from what I've been told. But everyone I know that has read the book or comic book podcast that I know that have read it or stuff like that rave that it is a fantastic book. It is hilarious. And stuff like that. And I guess with it just being a comedy and being a spoof in a world where all of that stuff actually happens, right? Where like there are superheroes and stuff there. Like it might match up with this one too. So
yeah,
I think those would be my recommendations.
I would recommend something I've recommended a couple times before. It's another old favorite of mine. It's the Thrilling Adventure Hour podcast. Which a lot of it I think is paywalled right now, so I don't think it's terribly easy to go listen to for free, but it's absolutely worth it. This was a podcast in the style of old-time radio dramas. And it's got a bunch of different stories under that banner. Like there is a superhero story called Captain Laserbeam. There's a space western called Sparks Nevada, Marshall on Mars. There's a supernatural hunting show called Beyond Belief. It's got all kinds of stuff. And this has a lot of the same cast members. You're going to hear like most of the same voices between these two shows. This is another thing I loved in like season 6. They're like, hey, we're going to bring out a bunch of your favorite old work juice players. I'm like, great. This is the ideal. Thank you very much for
Good
giving
stuff.
this to me. It's really funny. It's got a similar combination of pop culture pastiche, and we're going to start building our own thing, get a little bit of mythology in here, and it's always like super character and relationship based. Really funny, really, really charming and heartwarming. So if you can get a hold of Thrilling Adventure Hour, I definitely recommend it. And then two comics that have a similar arc of we're going to start in a very silly place, and then we're going to turn into something deep and emotional and painful, and oh no, this is so serious and it hurts. I'd say, what?
Continue. I just came up with one more recommendation that I will say after yours.
I'd say his earlier mentioned Sex Criminals has a similar arc where it's just goofy and irreverent, and then it's like, oh, there's real emotion back here. And I've been thinking about Nimona lately.
Nimona's a great one.
Another like really good superhero, supervillain story about the relationships between them, about the relationship between like villain and minion, about the structure that like supports villain and hero relationships. And that also starts as more of a goofy adventure pastiche and becomes more and more involved and gets higher stakes.
My last recommendation is going to be the Flintstones comics.
Oh, heck!
From like, it was like what, 2014, 2015, I think is when they came out. There's like 2 or 3 volumes. It's not much, but holy moly, that story is great. You think it's just gonna be like a retelling of what you know and love from the Flintstones cartoons, but it goes some places that are dark and emotional, and it has some great comedy at the same time. It's like this is hilarious. This is really funny, but it's just this surprising, twist, or not. It's not a reimagining. It's still the Flintstones you remember, but it's just like I didn't know it could be this funny or this emotional or stuff like that. So I would highly recommend that one too.
That's a good pitch. Yeah. So as a special treat, listeners of the podcast and you, Kyle, know that at the end of every year, I make a big playlist with a song to represent everything we've covered on the review show. Like it's a song from the TV or movie or whatever, and if it doesn't have anything, I I find a song that represents it for me. So last 2 years, I've made these big, weird hodgepodge playlists. I decided that this year, since we are covering entire series in these dedicated, like longer episode series, I made a whole playlist just for Venture Brothers.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So we can link to that if you would like. It's 30 songs, and I spent a lot of time curating this thing.
Yeah, send me the link, and I will put the link in the show notes of the podcast and in the description on YouTube and on our website. All that stuff.
And this isn't the only show we are doing this podcast episode format with. It's just the first one we started with. So the next show that we are covering, we're going to take it one season per podcast episode a month, and we're going to watch through the whole series. Next, we are covering Mr. Robot.
Yeah, I'm real excited about that one.
Yeah,
I have seen season 1, and it's phenomenal.
I have not seen any of it, but I hear about it a lot, and I'm very excited to find out what it is. So I guess in a couple weeks, we'll be recording about episode 1, and the series wrapped up last year with 4 seasons. And I think all of it, last time I checked, is on Amazon Prime.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good stuff. That's going to be whatever the last Sunday in April is when we're going to be recording that one. So it'll be out that following Wednesday. If that happens to be in April, it'll be in April. If not, it'll be like right at the start of March there.
May.
That one. I don't know how time works.
Yeah, well, we're on our own time travel adventure. We have our own please tell me ball.
Exactly. So I'm super excited about this one because this is like the type of show that's right up my alley, and it's pulling from a lot of my favorite movies and stuff like that. I'm just like, oh, this is great. I'm like right at home here with all of this. It's amazing. I've only seen season 1, so I'm excited to actually finish the show.
Yeah, it'll be fun to check in with this and go through it together.
Exactly.
And our next episode in the Review Show podcast, originally months ago in a different innocent time, you were planning on being out of town. Now you're inside your one room that you are allotted to. You're not going anywhere. But originally the plan was that I was going to have a friend on as my co-host for this episode, and we're still going to do that. This is going to be like kind of a dry run for me leading all the technical parts of the podcast myself, and you're going to sort of be in the background as a producer coaching me through it.
Exactly. Yeah. I was going to be out of town. Last year, you did a Reactor Core episode on Star Wars The Force Awakens. Nope. Rise of Skywalker. That one. Again, I don't know how time works.
Right. It's 2015.
But you did like a spoiler cast on that, and that was the very, very first ever podcast in the like 4.5 year history of the Whatnots that I have not been on. And it was fantastic, but because I was not there and I didn't really prepare you, I don't really think it had our like intro or exit music.
No, it was
posted it. It had like a weird thumbnail until I could get home and fix it and do all of that stuff. So I'm gonna be sending Melissa some assets to make all of that stuff happen, so that if I am ever out of town, she will have some practice putting it all together and stuff like that. We still have a couple details that you and I need to work out off mic here, but yeah, I'm excited that I get to kind of take a back seat and just if I won't say much, I will watch the thing or read the thing with you guys.
Okay.
But I won't say much, and if you guys have something to ask me, I will chime in, or if I see something wrong, like, you guys are wrong, stop. It's actually this thing. Then I will. Then I'll chime in and say something.
Yeah, this Rise of Skywalker episode I recorded was just me and my friend Jack both talking into one microphone, and I recorded it in Audacity and just emailed it to you. She's going to be our guest again, and we're going to do like, we're all going to stream in. We're all going to like Skype in. I'm going to like try and stream it. I'm going to do like everything Kyle tries to do. I'm going to try to do too. This is the dry run for me being the Kyle, if Kyle is ever really not here to step in and do the Kyle things. So I let guest of honor Jack pitch what we're going to be covering next week. And she sent me a list of 3 recent Best Original Screenplay Oscar winners.
Okay.
Yeah. And the list was Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Get Out, and the most recent one, Parasite. And I picked Parasite because this movie swept the Oscars, won Best Original Screenplay, Best Foreign Language Film, Best Film, the number one, got a ton of stuff, and I have no idea what it's about. Like, I have the tiniest sense of this film. So I was really excited to go into this huge acclaimed movie completely blind. And in a twist of good fortune, it is coming to Hulu this week, so I don't even have to pay for it.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's going to be on Hulu on April 8th. So just in time for me to watch it before recording this podcast next week.
Good stuff. Yeah, so just to make sure we reiterate all of that stuff next week.
Yes.
Parasite. And then at the end of the month, we will be covering season 1 of Mr. Robot.
Yep. Lots of podcast news to get out there. We're out here trying new things, making moves.
Yeah, I have to say, I do think that this has worked out really well. Your idea, like once a month, let's just cover a show. one season at a time, or like one big chunk at a time. It's worked out fantastically. So
yeah,
good stuff. Okay, let's get out of here for real, because we've almost been recording for 2 hours. But it was a good conversation and all of that. Melissa, where can the people find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Wilkywit. That's WILKYWIT. And I resurrected my old Tumblr to go.
Desperate times call for desperate measures.
Well, it was the URL is Cartoonology. I used to run a cartoon specific Tumblr blog in college, and I resurrected it to go look for Venture Brothers content now that I have caught up with the series. So you can go over there and it's just Venture stuff. It's all Venture now. Talk to me about Venture things.
Cool. You guys can find me online and on Twitter and Instagram at YoKyleSpringer. If you guys want to stay up to date with all of our shows, we are at The Whatnots on Twitter. Like, share, subscribe, stay home, wash your hands, be safe, do all that stuff. I guess we will see you guys next week with Parasite. This has been episode 101 of the review show. We will see you guys next week. Bye.
Eat the pennies.
Thank you so much for checking out our podcast. We hope you enjoyed that one as well. Let us know in the comments below what you guys think is going to happen in season 8 of the Venture Brothers, because we honestly have no idea what that would be. And in the meantime, of course, go subscribe to our channel, which is right up here in that corner. Go do that. And then watch one of our other videos, which is right down here in this corner. That would help us out a ton. We will see you guys next time.